What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Mind to Emotions. I am Theo.
And I'm Hali, and I'm back.
And she's back off holiday. How was the trip, by the way?
It was good. It was good. It was needed.
Yeah.
You know when something is just planned at the right time?
Yep.
That's that holiday for me.
I know what you mean.
It's been 2.5 years since I've been abroad.
Because of COVID?
Because of COVID. So to me that was like the return trip. Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Nice. I saw the photos and then it looked like you had a good time.
Yeah, it was such a good time. Yeah, I was away with the girls.
Yeah.
And the mum.
Yeah.
Well, she's part of the girls. That's what she says. So.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's good though. That's good. It's always good to get those breaks away. Another thing that's important for just like general mental health.
Definitely.
Definitely. I always say sometimes you got to steal time.
You always got to steal time, yeah.
It's never quite given.
Yeah, it's never given.
Just
that's
available.
The thing. You have to make it available.
Yeah.
You have to literally fit it into your diary. Exactly. No exemption. You have to just add it in.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys. So we're back up on the roof. I shot here recently with Alistair. If you guys haven't seen that episode, feel free to go check it out after this one. But yeah, it was really good. It was insightful. But
really good. Yeah.
I think the scenery was a factor because obviously we filmed majority of these inside and we haven't had a chance to get outside yet, or even like it's difficult in general. People know who create content. The audio of having to deal with outdoors. I mean, even now we're having to battle so many different moving parts, but you kind of
all the background faff that you guys don't see. But a lot of hard work does go into it.
Yeah, a lot of thought, a lot of process. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to get your initial thoughts, Hali, on what you thought of the conversation. For me, a few things kind of stood out, but I'd just love to kind of hear what you got, what you think about it.
I think what stood out for me, well, not necessarily stood out, but what I really loved about that episode was how much knowledge Alistair had in his obviously professionalism, and what value, all the things that he mentioned about nutrition and what value he aided in someone's mental well-being and how that interlinked, and he just really explained it really well, how those two really come hand in hand. It's not something that we would usually think of when someone says, let's think of things that you could do to improve your mental health. You don't necessarily always jump into nutrition.
No.
First thing that comes to my mind anyway is maybe sports or other external moving activities.
Something influence motion or moving.
Yeah, but not necessarily what we consume, what we take in. I think that's something that's majorly just overlooked, and that's one thing that I really enjoyed about that episode is the focus first of all on that and how he clearly interlinked it. And then the other thing that I was saying this to you before is we hear about mental health and usually we listen to people's stories, which is obviously just as important. That's where it lies, is people's stories and their experiences, shared experiences and all of that stuff. But also one side which we probably don't know, because it does take a lot of knowledge to understand. Some people go to universities and to really intricately understand the body anatomy and all of that and how it affects people. One thing I appreciated about that was that knowledge, was that scientific background to it. What vitamin C, how that affects our body, when he was talking about the fatigue and how that interlinks when you're feeling fatigue and you don't have the energy to do stuff and the motivation to get up in the morning, that kind of stuff. That's what I found really fascinating. To just hear that bit of background knowledge behind it, that scientific knowledge, and how that links with mental health, I think it's very important. And what I loved about it was is accessible, because coming from a biomed background, I know how complex these key jargon words can be. But I think the way that Alistair framed it was just very I feel like anyone could easily tune in and understand.
1, 2, 3.
Exactly. So I just really, really enjoyed that. I really just enjoyed just listening in and just listening to the facts, the 21 days to build a habit, to build a taste bud, and I was just everything was just it's just really interesting facts that I didn't know of before.
100%. I mean, leading on from kind of what you said is, for me the key thing that stood out was that how certain things interlink, and I didn't even think about a lot of these things, even though, you know, I've got a bit of an understanding of, you know, diet and nutrition in general, coming from a sporting background, but hearing it from somebody who's gone into the science of it, like you said, and how he also discussed about the diet versus the nutrition and how they can kind of be slightly different.
Definitely.
And diet's a little bit more of the planning, the preparation, the amounts, and varying that and understanding how that works for each person's diet, as opposed to nutrition, which is, from what he explained, is a lot more about just the general information about how you can eat better, with not necessarily a specific dietary plan for a certain person or specific individual. So like what stood out to me was just kind of like getting him to break down how those differences actually interlink and how they relate to mental health, which is what obviously a lot of this is what we're talking about. Just kind of taking apart something, and it goes back to what we talked about when we first started, wanting to create a bit more of a holistic view of what mental health is, so that when you come in you can actually see this is how perhaps diet affects my mental health, and this is how certain extrinsic things in my life, business, work, school, family, lots of
and I suppose that's why maybe some people don't get the full effects. Like, I think this is what's so useful about what we're doing here is, again, like you said, it builds a more holistic image of what affects people, which in turn what leads into mental health or having a more fulfilled lifestyle. So I think with that in mind, that's what I was just about to say, is that that's where some people maybe don't have the full benefits of like maybe getting treatment for mental health, is because sadly enough we don't get the full picture. We usually get told either one thing and we're missing out the complete other. So someone might tell you, for example, like the activity thing that I mentioned is get up and go and do activity, work on your like physical well-being, you know, go to the gym or go out and have a jog, spend time in the park. But then they won't mention to you how important it is when it comes to what diet that you have. They won't tell you actually cut out the junk food for a period of time, test it out to see how water can make you feel, like having your 2 liters of water can make you feel during the week. Test out, you know, having fruits and like maybe an orange a day, like how that's going to make you feel. We don't really talk about that stuff when it comes to mental health.
No, it's true.
So I think, you're right. I think that's what I love about like this platform.
Drawing the comparisons.
Drawing everything together, to form a more holistic view of like what mental health is and how it affects people, because it's so many moving parts to it, like you said, like family, relationships, you know, your mindset, commitment, all of these stuff that we've already talked about before, the previous episodes, but they all contribute to mental health. And I think it's
almost like you need mental health for studying mental health. If that makes sense. It's almost like you need just the aspect of diving into what mental health is and trying to figure out like how that relates to you, what you may be going through, if that is actually a significant thing, or if it's just like growing pains and maybe you just need to figure out things in life. Like there's so many questions. It's almost like I said, like you have to go through almost like this mental health hurdle or journey in order to figure it out. So that's why I think this space was really important, because there's so much information out there in terms of where to go. You can find endless streams, blogs, forums on this information that we're talking about, but I think it needs to come from people, and then they need to, you know, in this case what we're doing, which is just like offering it out as here are the steps, here are the things that actually affect mental health, and then we find the individuals who are actually skilled in those areas to kind of educate us a little bit further, as opposed to
put a bit of meat on the bone.
As opposed to us kind of like guessing in our minds. Like for example, we can sit here and talk about diet, right? And how nutrition could affect you eating better, eating healthier. But somebody like Alistair comes in and he actually knows, this is what affects you, this is how this affects your iron, this is how it affects your mood. And but that's another thing as well. What do you think about how it potentially affects mood? Because, you know, with the advent of like fast food and all of this fast available food, it's interesting how that, you know, we don't really realise what at best of times what certain foods are doing to us in terms of our mood and our, you know, attitude. It's
interesting that you say that, because as a woman, the only, like, I would speak on behalf of like many other women out there. But I would say that I never knew about that either. Like, you know, when I was like younger, maybe I didn't eat that much junk food like when I was younger, but then maybe I did, but I just didn't realize this point was, you know, as I grew up and started experiencing period and stuff, I think that's what really highlighted what you consume and what it can do to your body, because during that time you go, obviously, like, people might already know that you go through, you know, these crazy hormones, some of us anyway, some people experience it more than others, but when you do that, you have to, like, you just get like these mood changes, and based on those mood changes, it can either make you like eat good, or it can either make you just like eat junk food. And if you're like me, I love to eat chocolates and like all the junk food in the world. Like that's just what I like to do. It just makes me feel good, because based on all the other moods that are going on, so that's what
tied up there
exactly well. So that's what I like to do. But then I start to feel it, and that's when it really ever hit me that, oh my gosh, so this is how food actually makes, you know, this is the outcome of what we consume. It's when I experienced that every single month, and it started happening every month, and I was like, wait a minute, I was noticing a trend. I was like, every time I'm on my period, I get like, I want to like eat junk food, and when I do eat the junk food, I get the back end of like, obviously, so I feel shit.
You see how it's harder for me.
Yeah, exactly. It's harder for me to get back into the gym, because I've been eating junk food for like this whole week whilst I've been on my period. But then if I say, you know what, no, I'm going to go to the gym actually for this week, I'm going to push myself and do it to eradicate the cramps or whatnot, and I'm actually going to drink water, and I'm going to like really just try my best to not go into the chocolates this month. Like, I feel, be disciplined, and I feel completely different when I tell you, like, that's what really like made me realise the importance of what we consume is during those months, you know, every single month, that period month. It really made me realise, like, oh, like, wow, like, food really does, you know, impact us. It does affect us.
100%. And it comes, and see, this is why this is great, because, you know, it affects every individual differently, and also based upon their lifestyle choices as well. So as Alistair brought up, he talks about the cultural references as to how like food can affect you from a cultural position based on what your family is, where your heritage is, the kinds of foods that you'll fall back into. And one thing I thought was really interesting is how he mentioned about when you are going through tough times and you're dealing with stress, typically sometimes what happens is you kind of fall back and regress into your eating habits that you've learned, that, you know, become accustomed to having from a young age. So I just think it's interesting that you can just you can offer that out there to the people, and you can kind of piece the puzzle together yourself. It's not necessarily like this one answer fits all. I think you have to pay attention to, you know, maybe how you was brought up, your environment, your cultural habits, and like you just mentioned as well, being that little bit extra disciplined sometimes to be able to see the results, as opposed to just falling victim to those cravings, those things that we enjoy. I mean, we all have them. We all have them, whether it's food or it's other things. But on the topic of food, I definitely think it's, you know, it's quite unique to be able to bring somebody in and see how that relates to just how our minds work. You know?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure there's a lot more we could obviously dive into when it comes to that. But I think that as we progress and we get further into these conversations, bringing more people on, and we have some really interesting people that have reached out that are in different fields. That's what I think is the key. It's not bringing one individual in from this one group and we all speaking from the same, or singing from the same hymn tune. I think it's more about finding people in obscure places that you wouldn't necessarily think of, and then finding out how you find similarities. And on this case, or on this our theme or our conversation is all about, you know, mental health. So you know, like we said at the beginning, diet is one thing I definitely didn't think necessarily relates to mental health that strongly.
Me too.
But, you know, if anything, it kind of really does, because it's our mind decides. It's like our mind chooses what we're going to do, and also how much willpower we kind of have to like say no or say yes. You know, so but I thought that was quite a unique one, and you know, I'm looking forward to being able to bring more people on.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
More professionals, just like different walks of life.
Exactly.
I really enjoyed that episode. I thought it was really good. Just the linkages, like, you know, just mention it again, like it was just the linkages to like how it affects. Yeah, it's just like majorly overlooked, you know.
Yep. Just pieces of the puzzle almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like we're piecing together a puzzle, and over time,
exactly,
we'll see how it kind of actually creates this overall picture of what we call mental health. You know? But yeah, that was kind of essentially what we kind of wanted to touch base on, and just to highlight some of those key points that stood out from the conversation. A big shout out to Alistair for, you know, coming through and sharing his time on the podcast. It's a shame that, you know, Hali wasn't here, and she would have been great.
But maybe next time, maybe Alex, you can join us next time, and I'll be here.
Yeah, well, 100%. He did say he expressed he wanted to come back on because there's a lot to get into with like, diet and food.
Yeah.
So you can get really specific, and he's obviously a diabetes specialist. So we could maybe even get into the specifics of how that affects
diabetes. Yeah, that's a good topic.
Like, and my roommate from college as well.
That's a massive topic, actually. Yeah. I really got exposed with it. Like this year, when a family member of mine got diagnosed with diabetes.
Yeah, my roommate from college was just saying the same.
Yeah, and it's all through like diet as well, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. And they go through. I mean, diabetes is one of those things. It's like it can be something that you inherit. Yeah. Or it could be something that you actually become exposed to from lack of either poor discipline, from poor eating habits over time. So there's two unique different types, and I think it'd be interesting to get into the breakdown of how those two are different. Yeah, maybe Alistair would definitely be perfect for
how they affect you differently also. Yeah, definitely.
I'd like that. But yeah, guys, just continuing to just keep breaking down these conversations.
Thanks for tuning in once again.
100%. I love having these little and we changed up the scenery, as you can see. I think these conversations work better in a more outdoor setting.
Yeah, you know. It's been really nice being out today.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. It's nice, and even having to overcome the hurdles of like sound, nature in general. I think it's quite refreshing for these kind of convos, because you get to see a little bit more of the outside. Yeah,
elements of nature.
You hear nature, and I think it's just a positive all round. But without further ado, don't want to keep you guys too long. As always, we appreciate you for coming through and just spending the time to to spend your time in general to maybe learn a little bit more about mental health, or maybe you know somebody or is going through something at the moment. So, we just appreciate you coming and sharing, and if you know anyone that particularly going through these issues, feel free to share it along with them.
Share these podcasts. Just spread the word and tune in.
100%.
We're here every week, so tune in.
That's right, every Monday. But Hali, as always, it's a pleasure.
And good to be back.
Exactly. We've got a lot more to get into. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you guys on the next episode. Peace and love.